start with introducing our panelists. Our first speaker is David Iglesias Frank, and he's the head of Department of Photography and Audiovisual Records at Girona City Council. He's also the chair of the expert group in photographic and audiovisual archive of the International Council of Archives. So I'll hand the floor to you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry. Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm an archivist at the Center for Image Research and Dissemination at the City Council of Girona. This is a photographic archive, but also an audiovisual archive with a big collection of 3 million photographs, and then TV archive, radio archive, and library, and so on. So, as Juan said, I think we all the speakers would feel comfortable in any of the panels because we are involved in heritage, of course, we are heritage institutions. We integrate technology. I like this idea, this concept. And in our case, we are involved also with innovation, and that's why we are members of Photoconsortium, and that's why we participate in European projects that mainly let us participate of this innovation strategy in a European level, let's say. So for this presentation, I will focus on our experience in EUreka3D-XR, this European project that it mainly consists in providing tools for heritage institutions to work with 3D and in order to have XR, AR experiences. So the first question is why 3D digitization at archives? What archives are interested in 3D? We all agree that archives is space for preservation and custody, but also discovery, knowledge, experimentation, creation. Discovery, there are full of stories in an archive. An archive actually represents humanity, so it's easy to imagine that we can be inspired for creation, for experimentation, for whatever. So archives are so rich that it's not just a place for memories, it's more than that. Then the second point is this 3D digitization let us represent objects for analysis, research, also entertainment. Entertainment is also important. But maybe we think that we have flat documents, no? It's mainly records, but we also have objects. So we have, for example, daguerreotypes, and we had the experience to digitize daguerreotypes in 3D. Our collection is in Europeana and was previously digitized in a project. So we discover a wall there because we have all the details when you look at the detail at a daguerreotype in 3D, but also it let us experiment with new forms of showing the collection. For example, when we have a visit, the daguerreotype is unique, but now all the group can access to the daguerreotype in 3D at the same time. And we also digitized the lab, so we can explain how this daguerreotype was made at the period. So plenty of opportunities, and okay, we can focus more on this 3D object. And then last point, but I think is most important, we are creating memory twins. This is something we learn in EUreka3D. Mainly our partners, Marinos from CUT, Cyprus Institute of Technology, University of Technology, show us that teach us with this idea. It's not digital twins, but memory twins. We need to provide context, knowledge related to, and archives are the main source for this. So after this, I think an archive like us need to reflect on the technical framework. We want to digitize in 3D, but how we digitize? We have plenty of apps that works in a mobile, you can easily digitize this bottle. But if we digitize heritage, we need to take in consideration some characteristics, some processes. And for high quality digitizations, we have this BGS study that published the European Union. And in EUreka3D, we create guidelines in order to have the main steps that are then explained in this study. So you have the print version, or you can take one there, but this is the methodology we already have. How we manage the content, because we create a lot of images, a lot of files. For this, in EUreka3D, mainly the partner, the Edge Institution Foundation, sorry, they created the data hub with all the partners, but mainly they developed this. So we have a data hub, and that this is a place where you can use for your 3D stuff, but also you can publish it because it's linked to Europeana, or you can make accessible all the elements, all the files that are created during the process, and you can manage all this information. So it's not like just a repository; it's something for 3D. And then how we make all this accessible is another issue. Are the viewers, and it's something we learned before. So the Data Hub, they use a library. They adapted a library for this. And even they developed some settings in order that each one can let's say, set the characteristics for the viewing in order, depending on the characteristic of your 3D object. So we have an answer for all these. So we can say that EUreka3D provide this sorry. EUreka3D provide all this, provide the data hub, provide the methodology and the access to this. Okay, so now focusing on this EUreka3D-XR and our experience on this. Now I will explain our scenario. We develop different tools. The companies, in our case, is an Italian company that is Swing IT. And then heritage institutions, we provide content and some requirements. I tell you. So our project is about the visualization of the walls, of the medieval walls of the city of Girona, because a big part was demolished at the beginning of the century. So the image, the photographic image you see, is the section we are reproducing, let's say. So we are focusing on this part. On the map, you see all the walls that were demolished with the bastions, with the towers, but we are working in a pilot. So we start for a section, and that's what we do in this project. Then, to have a bit of a historical context, just let me say that Girona is a city that the foundation is the first century before Christ. So we celebrated last year 2,100 years of history. And the walls, there are the Roman walls, the pre-medieval walls, but the medieval walls, the ones that we want to make it visible again, were built in the 15th century. Then there are the towers, the bastions, a bit later. Then they were demolished, and in the western part, and the ones that were still there, kept, they were reconstructed in the 80s. So we have the walls, half of the walls, the part of the mountain, let's say, but the one in the flat area was already demolished at the beginning of the century. So this helps for the reconstruction. So what are the challenges we have with this? First is the knowledge, the scientific research. When you want to reconstruct the walls, You need an understanding of this historical element. So in the University of Girona in the 90s, they start a research group on urban history. So there is a lot of knowledge on this. So we take advantage of this. Then the second challenge is to provide records and data. So first of all, we gathered all the information, and that is maps, that is engravings, of course, photographs and films, and textual records. But from this, we need to provide data to swing it in order they are able to create these models. So we need to understand and to have precise information on the ways, the heights, in the different parts, if there are vestiges, if there is some of the walls that are nowadays underground, etc. So we provide this data from the documents we gathered before. Another challenge is the textures. When you create the model, you need textures. And as I said before, there is part of the walls that already exist. So we have all images, the images from the period, but we also have the images of the part of the wall that is still there. So Swing IT, they do some requirements and they say us, as you can see in the images, we want images with these characteristics. You should take new images using these coordinates, and then they do an analysis of each of the images we provide. It works this way. And then the last challenge is with LiDAR data, because this is the point cloud is a lot of data, and we are in the process to see how we manage this. We have some LiDAR information that is provided by the Cartographic Institute in Catalonia, that they took point clouds for all the territory, for all Catalonia. But now we need to assess if this information is enough for the use that we need now. Otherwise, we need to hire a new flight and create a new data. But LiDAR is data, the point cloud is also a big challenge, because this is a lot of data, a big volume. How we will link this information with the data hub, how we make it accessible, because we need to make it accessible, of course. So it's another challenge. And then I finish with the tools. There are two tools. I don't explain it because this is something that belongs to the company, the partners of the same project, and they will explain the tools. But now they are in the process of developing. So one of the tools is to create models, 3D models, using photographs and using AI under the control of a human. So the idea is that this tool will be accessible in our data hub, and everyone will be able to use the tool after the project. So they are experimenting now with first results, but don't take into account what you see. It's just a test, but we will improve this image very much. And the second tool is the one for the XR experience. You will be able to locate the model on the map. And so when you go to the place, you will realize that the walls were there. And I hope you will have a feeling that all this is quite real. And last thing is that we are doing this, but it's not something that is an improvisation. We have a plan for this. The City Council of Girona have a plan to introduce 3D for showing the evolution of the city. So some years ago, for example, we worked with cadastre images of the 1970, and we create these volumes of the existing buildings at the period. We are doing the same for a cadastre of the 16th century, that we have all the information. We are working on this, and the walls will be an element that will be part of this urban evolution that we hope we'll be able to show in 3D. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this fascinating paper and showing how sophisticated technology can be and how important it will build for innovation, in the sense also to open it for a wider public, being able to experience the city wall of Girona through making the archive speak again in another way, not only for specialists that can read those documents, but eventually for larger communities to be able to dig into the past and really experience it. I think it has great potential, of course. And it's really blending in the discourse that was started this morning with the great potential of technology. As we've seen in this project, it's extremely well planned and very precisely planned and tested, and so that's perhaps the direction that technology needs to take, with very well-defined objective and planification. Let's move on with our second speaker, Vincent Guichard, an archaeologist by training, head of the public establishment in charge of the Bibracht heritage site in Burgundy. He's deeply involved in heritage policies, including the mobilization of digital technologies to preserve and promote heritage.
Well, thank you to give me the floor. I'm very impressed to be with you today, because I'm not a specialist of archives. I'm not a specialist of information technologies. I'm simply an archaeologist more used to push a wheelbarrow. So I don't know if I have to thank you, Antonella, to invite me. Anyway, my organization is a member of Photoconsortium and also a member of EUreka3D and EUreka3D-XR consortium. So we give a short mention of that in my presentation after what David has already said. Well, I think my point of view is that as a site manager, having to deal with a huge amount of information, digital and not digital, and in this information, a lot is visual. And my talk will be about the challenges and the questions that we've got on this subject. Well, yes, and Bibracht is probably a very good showcase to raise this question. Just very, very briefly, it's a major archaeological site in modern Burgundy in France, site of the turn of the first century BC, and 75 years of excavations starting in the 1860s, stopped with the First World War and reactivated in the 1980s. That means a huge amount of information with a great diversity, which is the reflection of all the history of archaeology and the development of techniques used over 1 century and a half, and quite a lot of archaeological activity made within an international project in the last 40 years. So, and what is interesting for this audience is the fact that we are processing a whole chain of production and dissemination of archaeological information, from the collection of data in the field till the sharing of these data, or the processed data, to the widest audience. So that means, for example, the visit of the site and the museum we manage, and also the scientific community today and in the future. Every day we're still using today the archives produced in the 19th century. And that's the problem with archaeology compared to other scientific disciplines, is that all interpretations are really short-lived, but the data we are producing, which are the result of the systematic destruction of sites by archaeological excavations, we have to keep these archives without any limitation of time. And that makes archaeology a bit specific in terms of processing of scientific data. So very briefly, the visual information we are dealing with, of course, there's a lot of non-digital media. All the archives produced during the 19th century excavations, site plans, drawings of finds, hundreds of pages of site books, photographs, actually not so many in the case of Be Bright, and I don't understand why. The problem, the history of archaeology is strongly connected with the history of photography, but it's another subject. And we are still producing non-digital media, but the same types of media, of course, even if their proportion is decreasing with time. And so now I think we consider that we are more comfortable when we manage keeping paper archives, because I think we are more comfortable in our ability to keep these archives for a long period. So we've got thousands of folders with the site recordings, and even if these site recordings are natively digital, we are very happy just to make paper prints of what we've done with the tablet in the field. And all this documentation is being digitalized according to the needs, because it's a very expensive process, especially to produce all the metadata connected to the documents. And well, of course, we are producing more and more digitally native media. So at the moment, only for one excavation, I think we are speaking of hundreds of thousands of photographs. We are speaking of site plans and more photogrammetric plans and 3D views of excavations. Drones are used in a routine every day on site. So we're dealing with thousands and tens of thousands of this kind of photogrammetric plans. More and more results of geophysical and LiDAR surveys, hundreds or even thousands, I could have put thousands, and with a very important weight for some of them. For example, ground penetrating radar or LiDAR produce very, very big files. 3D view of objects, not so many. We made the first series within the EUreka3D project, but I don't know the final use of these 3D digital twins. I think it's still a bit of a question. So we are not so far in that, and it's broadly the same, I think, for the archaeological community, and videos, but it's not so many. Altogether, I just checked yesterday before coming here, the data stored on our servers is roughly 15 terabytes. And it increases by 30% a year, so exponentially. And clearly, it's not under control. And that's one of the big questions for me. We are not controlling what we are producing in terms of digital media. So three slides to finish to present different issues, present-day issues. Well, the first one is long-term archiving of files and access to these files. So as I just said, a bigger and bigger volume of digital data. How can we? Well, we need to find reliable public backup servers of all that. At the moment, we are just relying on own equipment, so it's not very reliable. If there is a crash, even if we got servers in two different buildings, it's not so much reliable. And so we are trying to negotiate access to public servers dedicated to research uses within the EGI European network, but it's not done. And that's for the management of digital information connected to heritage, cultural heritage. I think it's a very big problem at European level. And anyway, it is a big problem at the national level in my country, in France. Of course, this visual information is part of a broader information system with a lot of site data, contextual data, organized as an information system. So the information system should be well organized and filled so that all the paradata connected to the images are available at the right time for the right people. And another challenge, so it's connected to what will be shown by the presentation about the time machine, is just our ability in the future to aggregate data from different archaeological sites, just really to allow the use of the new technology used for the processing of mass data, and of course, artificial intelligence, just considering the fact that a large part of archaeological research is making visual comparisons between architectures, between objects. And that's not what we are doing as a routine today in the archaeological community. I must say we are quite late. So all these challenges and objectives are consistent with the ambitions of the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage. And okay, we've got the same objectives, but how do we do that? So it's a very, very big challenge. So at the moment, we are exploring these issues mainly within a project organized at the national level and funded at the national level, for which BIBRACT is the leader, with the main actors of French archaeology. We have 15 partners, and just to develop an information system using the technologies of our time, of our century, considering the fact that nearly everywhere in Europe, archaeological excavation rely on technologies of the 1990s. And at the end, 30 years later, these technologies are completely old-fashioned, and we have to turn to new technologies, allowing in the future to aggregate data and just to make the exchange of information. And in our case, we are mainly using software promoting structured vocabulary, software used to organize and to publish thesaurus for archivists. I think it's meaningful for you, but I got no time to get into the details. And second series of issues make it easier to share archaeological research and heritage with the widest possible audience. So that's what we are, what EUreka3D and EUreka3D-XR are dealing with. So the first ambition is to provide relevant access to media on servers dedicated to a wide audience, and especially Europeana. And so that means not only preparing and publishing files with quality metadata, but also linked to the whole archaeological context of their production, and is also editorialization to enable and facilitate their discoverability and effective use by the end users. I think today there are more than 60 million items in Europeana, so it's very difficult to find his or her way in that. I think it's become a very deep lake, Europeana. So how can we help people and research engines to dig into this deep lake? I think it's a lot has to be done in this for that. So, for example, we just started to editorialize our images by producing small stories using the tools developed by Europeana. I think it's very basic, but just for example, a teacher, I think it's a very nice way to get prepared and already organized documentation. But a lot needs to be done. And of course, also with artificial intelligence, certainly. And the second aspect is mainly dealing with what we do within the team of BIBRACT, is developing mediation tools accessible on the archaeological site itself, in the museum, and in remotely on the web. So, for example, the image I've put on the screen is a very efficient device in the Museum of BIBRACT. It's using a 3D, very precise 3D model to project images of just the evolution of the site and the history of excavations. So it's in some ways very basic. It's only a video projector, and with very precisely produced image with scientific content. It's been there for 15 years, and it's not old-fashioned. You know, it's effective, and we are very happy just to try to experiment new devices. So yes, this equipment is a part of first generation of media we developed in the last decade, sometime with great success, like this one, but with the limitation that these are proprietary solutions. So that means every time we need an adjustment, we need to pay. And very often the firms which have developed the equipment just disappear 10 years later. So it's a very big problem. So the pilot case developed by BBRACT within EUreka3D-XR, like the one developed parallelly to the one developed in Girona, with the help of the National Technical University of Athens, deals with the development of easy to use, free and open source software to enhance the visit of heritage site. Just one image to illustrate what we are wanting to do. Basically, actually, the images I've put on the screen are images of the device we've already got on the site, which is not so effective. The ergonomy is not so good. I think this augmented reality is just fantastic tool on archaeological site, but basically on an archaeological site, 2,000 years after the abandonment of the site or the town, there's nothing left to be seen. When archaeologists expose remains, ruins, but after that they are backfilled. So there are two main ways to use extended reality, or is just to show former excavations, and then to show the way we imagine the constructions in the past, as it's shown on the slide. And my last slide is very funny because it's exactly the same content to what we heard with Juan Alonso, because it's the same conclusion. We need to develop 3D literacy in the teams managing the heritage sites, and especially to turn the archivist as a record keeper to record manager is really the answer. It's really what we are living at the moment. And in my team, so we had to create different new positions on the whole chain of the production and dissemination of digital media. For the recording in the field, a geomatician, somebody who makes especially photogrammetric measurements, and to the end user, just publishing a secretary. And on top of that, we've got a digital strategy manager. So basically, he is the archivist, but he works at the beginning of the chain to try to produce the strategy and not to make a mess with all the information we produce. And also another colleague who's in charge of the IT equipment and security as well, which is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge every year. Okay, and also it's very important to say that for a small team as a team of BBRACT, it's very important to be part of research consortiums like EUreka3D, EUreka3D-XR, because it really opens new possibilities and new perspectives. And without that, there will be no way we will have this necessary broad vision of the subject. Okay, so my conclusion is that archaeological research has not yet completed its digital transition by far. The challenge is to massively develop the possibilities opened up by IT and especially artificial intelligence, which has not reached so much discipline so far, while guaranteeing the maintenance on very long-term access to data and keeping under control the energy consumption required to the use of it. So we need to be sober. It hasn't been mentioned this morning so far. And for me, it's a very, very big concern because there's a contradiction to have to manage ecological issues, because my site is also a natural site, and we are really engaged in this climate change issues, and at the same time developing energy technologies and using a lot of energy. And that's, well, it's a big problem, and I'm not the solution. So that's why I conclude with a question: is this ambition achievable? I'm not sure it is. Or to what extent is this ambition achievable would be more realistic, probably, and more politically correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a very interesting paper, especially your last question, I think opens up to what we are going to face in the future, this double speed of innovation where every progress that we make will have an impact on different aspects of our lives, especially climate change, as we've just mentioned.